Okay, let's go.
All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're getting into something huge for any trader out there, psychology. But, we're not just going to rehash the same old tips. We're going to look at this through the eyes of a neuroscientist and coach, Randy Howell, to really understand how to build a mind that doesn't just win, but a mind that actually lasts.
So here's where Howell kicks things off, and it's a real head scratcher. He says the moment you start thinking that you've got it together is the exact moment that you've lost it. I mean, that sounds completely backwards, right? It's a bit of a paradox, and it points directly at the biggest problem most of us face in the market.
So that really begs the question. If feeling confident is actually the enemy, then what is a trader's real enemy? It's not the market, it's not your trading system, and it's definitely not the other traders. The answer, it turns out, is a lot closer to home. And that brings us to our first big idea, the battle between your brain and the market. According to Howell, the real war isn't happening on your screen, it's happening right between your ears. See, Howell's whole philosophy is based on what he calls a neurobiological approach. What does that mean? Well, it means that real, lasting success isn't about finding some magical indicator or the perfect setup. It's about fundamentally retraining your brain's ancient, hardwired survival instincts that go haywire in the face of uncertainty. And this right here perfectly illustrates the problem. Our brains, thanks to millions of years of evolution, are wired to seek out certainty, to survive at all costs, and to grab control of a situation. But the market? Well, the market is random, it's totally impersonal, it doesn't care about you, and it is fundamentally, absolutely uncontrollable. This isn't just a small disagreement, it's a head-on collision with our deepest programming. Here's a great way to think about it. You've got a caveman living inside your head. Seriously, it's your limbic system, that ancient emotional part of your brain that's in charge of survival. When that caveman looks at the market's randomness, it doesn't see probabilities and statistics. It sees a saber-toothed tiger. It completely freaks out and hits the panic button, triggering those fight-or-flight instincts that are just a complete disaster when you're trying to manage risk. So, how does this whole internal conflict with the caveman actually show up in our trading? Well, that leads us straight into something Howell calls the winning mindset trap. Howell tells this story about a sign that was in his high school football locker room. It read, "Winners never lose and losers never win." Sound familiar? This is the kind of stuff we're all taught growing up. We learn that winning is about being dominant, being in control, and that losing is just, well, it's failure. And we carry that exact mindset with us when we sit down to trade. And here is precisely why that mindset is so incredibly toxic for trading. That need to win is really just a need to control the outcome. But we already know the market's outcome is uncontrollable. So what happens? You create this impossible amount of psychological pressure on yourself, and that leads directly to all the classic mistakes: revenge trading, emotional decisions, and yeah, blowing up accounts. Okay, so if trying to win all the time is the problem, what's the solution? This is where Howell's thinking gets really powerful. It's about shifting your focus to mastering the power of losing well. And this is the core insight right here. Howell says, quote, "I have never met a really good trader that was not a damn good loser." This just flips the entire script. The goal isn't to never lose. The goal is to get really, really good at taking small, managed, unemotional losses. To see them as just a cost of doing business in a world of probabilities. And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Howell talks about the world of institutional trading. You've got the home run hitter, the guy who makes $50 million in one crazy year. He gets all the glory, the big bonus, but those guys, they often burn out and are gone within 5 years. And then you have the consistent pro. He only makes $10 million a year, but he does it year after year after year. Now, who has the lasting career? Who's really building wealth? It's the pro, not the gambler. So the big takeaway here is that real success in trading isn't about hitting that one massive, life-changing trade. It's about the disciplined, almost boring management of risk and the patient execution of your strategy over and over again for a very, very long time. This all sounds great in theory, but how do you actually do it? How do you go from being a winner to a good loser? Well, that brings us to the practical part, retraining your emotional brain. First, let's just get clear on what doesn't work. Howell is really firm on this. Things like positive thinking, repeating affirmations, trying to visualize success, he says they all crumble under real market pressure. And why is that? Because all of that stuff operates on the level of your thinking brain. But when stress kicks in, the caveman, your emotional brain, is the one who grabs the steering wheel. So instead, he proposes this very systematic 3-step process. First, reveal. You use your trading account as a truth meter, as he calls it. It doesn't lie. It shows you your deep subconscious patterns. Second, recognize. You start to identify the emotional drivers behind those patterns. Is it a need to feel worthy? A need for power? A need to prove you're good enough? And finally, third, retrain. You systematically and deliberately build a new, calm, and detached response to all that market uncertainty.
And if you're wondering why this subconscious work is so vital, just look at the science. Research suggests that something like 95% of our decisions are actually made at the subconscious level. Your emotional brain, the caveman, is driving the car. Your conscious thinking brain is just the passenger who thinks they're in control. If you want to change your results, you have to work with the actual driver.
Now be warned, this isn't an overnight fix. Howell is a realist. He says it takes about 3 to 4 months of dedicated, focused work for the brain's deep limbic beliefs, that old caveman programming, to fundamentally change and for new neural pathways to really solidify.
But here's the final crucial twist in this entire story. Let's say you do all the work. You retrain your brain. You become consistently profitable. You've mastered the art of losing. You'd think you're safe, right? Wrong. This is where we encounter the ultimate threat, the danger of success.
The single most dangerous emotion for a trader is not fear and it's not greed. It's euphoria. It's that feeling of being on fire, that sense of total overconfidence where you start to believe you finally figured it all out and you just can't lose. Howell calls it an emotional contagion, and it's the exact moment you throw your risk management out the window and set yourself up for a catastrophic blow-up.
And this brings us right back full circle to that quote from the beginning. The moment you start thinking that you've got it together is the exact moment that you've lost it. Now it makes perfect sense. That feeling of having it all together is euphoria. And it's the ultimate warning sign that you've let your guard down and your inner caveman is about to take over with a god complex.
So the key here is that developing a successful trading mind isn't a destination you just arrive at one day. It requires what the American revolutionaries called eternal vigilance. It is a constant, ongoing practice of self-awareness and emotional management every single day you trade. And that leaves us with one final, really important question we have to ask ourselves. In our approach to the markets, and maybe even to life itself, are we trying to build a mind just to win, or are we building a mind to last?